Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
Hey there. Hey there. Welcome to Grok Talk. Steve McDonald here with Mike Rogers, Skip Murphy. Max Abramson's en route.
Parking
in Concord. Nightmare parking in Concord. The nightmare on Main Street. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Which is still ongoing because they're still
ongoing.
Deconstructing it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they are starting to put it back together again. They are starting to pave in front of this Capitol building and moving their way further southward. But I'll tell you, I think Rick's rant of a couple of weeks ago
last week, yeah.
Perfect.
It was
absolutely
good.
perfect.
It was 2 weeks ago, you're right. Yeah, 2 weeks ago in Grok Talk, he posted it up. It was good.
Yes.
Very good. Lousy situation. Even the improvements are not improvements. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about veto override bills, hopefully, as soon as he gets here. The two that I'm aware of, or the two things that I'm aware of that need attention, specifically, three things, actually. SB 116, which is the constitutional carry bill. HB 603, which is the right to opt out of assessments. And the budget, which the governor vetoed. So those are the three that I'm familiar with. I know there's a couple more. And Max has just arrived to tell us what they are. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Remind you that you can listen to this and past programs on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, iHeart, Radio, YouTube, and Ustream. And please check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. Just look for Granite Grok. And, of course, GraniteGrok.com, where all the greatest conservative blogging occurs in the state of New Hampshire. It's just my humble opinion. But I got to see which headset you're on there, sir. Are you on this one?
Testing.
You are. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. I mentioned three, HB 603, the budget, and SB 116. We can do them in any order you want. Whatever you want to go, just start, and we'll just try to make sure we get through all six.
Well, thanks for having me on. I've been going through Maggie Hassan's veto responses. They're always entertaining, but they're always condescending.
Nicely put.
Well, if you're gonna lie, at least tell a convincing lie. And one of the things I notice about her veto messages is not only are they dishonest, they assume that you're stupid, that you didn't read the bill, and I do read the bills, and I happen to go back through some of these bills and read the text of them. Republican bills are usually about one or two sentences. Well, I mean, they are. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone, but
they should be short and understandable.
And they are very short, and they are very understandable. But usually I think of a bill as being something like a page or 2 pages. Republican bills are usually about a sentence or two.
Unless there's like a sentence or two change in a large existing RSA, and you have to trundle through the whole thing. And
you know, we had a bill earlier this year that only changed one word. It changed the word "and" to "or," and the Health and Human
difference.
Services didn't pass it. Well, it was medical. It was medical marijuana. If you have patients who are on medical marijuana, you had to. Right now, you have to have the symptoms of certain diseases and a diagnosis for those diseases. It can't just be symptoms or the disease. Well, if you take the same symptoms to 2 different doctors, one doctor might give you a different diagnosis. If that diagnosis isn't on the list, now you can no longer take medical marijuana. Just the change of one word, now you're on pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals have side effects, so sometimes you take one pharmaceutical, now you need to take something else to deal with the side effects for that. Now you need to take something else to deal with the side effects for that. Eventually you're on a shoebox full of medications.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about veto override day.
House bill, that's Wednesday. Going to be quite a few people coming. I've had quite a few parents concerned about HB 603. But the first one is along the same lines, House Bill 332. Of course, we're very strong supporters of parental rights, and that's one of the reasons that I went up there to the State House, and one of the reasons I try to get more people involved. Hassan, so here's what House Bill 332 does. It simply says that if the school is going to have sexually oriented
explicit,
or explicit material, that they have to provide 2 weeks' notice to the parents so the parents can come in, take a look at the material, make sure it's not obscene or objectionable. And I thought this was a very simple, straightforward bill. I thought it would just flew right through the committee, went right through the House, went right through the Senate. We only had Democrats voting against it, of course. It's just a very simple bill. Parents find something objectionable, they should have the right to pull their kid out of the class. And this one simply says it just provides notice. That's it. The law already says you can pull your child out of that class for some alternative material, but in this particular case, in New Hampshire, you don't get notice. You don't get notified. Parents are finding out after the fact what's in
we
some
know how
of these
that
books.
works.
Yeah.
Out.
You remember the
Guilford.
Yeah, we've got a list.
And the father in Bedford who was arrested for bringing up, these kids, some of them are 10 years old, they're getting exposed to some of this stuff. So here's what Hassan says. House Bill 332 would be an impediment to an adaptable learning environment, which is critical to helping our students develop the skills and critical thinking necessary for success in the 21st century economy. This is what she says. Current law requires school districts to adopt a policy allowing an exception to specific course material based on a parent's or legal guardian's determination that the material is objectionable. And that part is true. But the other problem is, if the parents don't know ahead of time, they don't know what material is coming down the pike that is going to be objectionable.
Oh, absolutely right. And this all comes down to who owns the children. And as I've blogged about before, more and more government, especially government teachers, believe they are the ones who are responsible for the children. And as a close family friend said, that's in special ed classes right now for teaching, they are being taught not to respect and not to trust the parents. This is what's being taught in the teachers' schools.
All right, let's not get too far.
So, this is all part of what's called democratic socialism. Somebody went on, and one of these Bernie Sanders folks went on and lectured us about democratic socialism and how it isn't what we think it is. Mm-hmm. Well, democratic socialism literally is, by definition, it's the Soviet economic model. It's the Soviet economic system. But you get to vote. You get a ballot. Well, what a lot of these folks don't remember is, in the Soviet Union, Russians did have the right to vote, but you only had one party, the Communist Party. And in a lot of these safe democratic districts, you only get what the party officials give you, which are closet communists and socialists. They'd never admit to being that. But essentially you're getting the Soviet system, Soviet-style urban planning, state-run rail monopolies, state-run transit, government-run schools. They want everything.
Choose from any of these three approved socialist candidates.
And Bernie Sanders said something. I think we all understood what he was saying. But what he said was, why do we have a choice of 23 different deodorants when you have children going hungry in this country?
Yep.
Why do you have children going hungry in this country at all? 50 years of big government and the welfare warfare state, and you've still got children going hungry. In fact, we have the highest child poverty rates that we've ever had, at least since the Great Depression. So obviously big government is not working. Let's go back to what we had before. That's just my 2 cents. House Bill 449. No child support for a child over 18 pursuing a GED. So right now, if you're paying child support, you pay child support till they're 18, unless they're still in high school, and then you pay until they graduate. It's a great, wonderful day, and then when they graduate, you find out that you're not the biological father, and you're not getting any of your money back. But that's a separate issue that we need to jump into hopefully this year as we're putting bills together. But if they're pursuing a GED, frequently that means they've dropped out, then they wait till they're 18, then they start pursuing a GED. Well, why is it after someone is 18, why are parents having to continue to pay child support? So most of the time it's men, but more and more often we're finding that it's the women. When you have separation of parents, the parents separate if the father is a lawyer or he's politically well connected or he goes to the same country club as the judge. frequently the judge, acting in quote-unquote the child's best interest, we're finding more and more mothers are losing primary custody of their kids and having to pay child support to the father, and sometimes the father makes more money than she does. And yet you have this incredibly bad system that doesn't work for the best interests of the kids at all. It works for the best interests of whoever spends more money on their lawyers. But again, her arguments are really poor. She essentially argued that that GED programs were vitally important, and that losing child support or having child support orders end would somehow compromise the GED and HiSET. And it makes absolutely no sense. One has nothing to do with the other. It's just forcing a few more years of child support out of someone who has been struggling with child support payments for, possibly almost 2 decades. So that's another bill that sailed through, and we're wondering why this one is coming back, and the reasoning, again, is just absurd. House Bill 550 was known as the Planet Fitness Bill. New Hampshire is unique among states. Apparently, we're the only state in the nation that penalizes companies for doing an initial public offering, which is part of their growth phase. We talk about small businesses and how they grow and create jobs. Well, at some point, if they're creating enough jobs, they hit a point where they need to raise even more money. They're profitable, and they need to do an initial public offering. Well, when you go public like this and offer shares, there's a huge tax penalty in New Hampshire, and we're trying to undo this. Hassan is arguing that she's vetoing this, but she'll consider this as part of the overall budget package. She's thinking that vetoing this bill will help give her more negotiating room with the business tax cuts in budget negotiations. Now, Hassan is negotiating with Jasper and Chuck Morse, but those people aren't talking to us. I don't know if Chuck Morse is talking to the Senate, but Jasper certainly hasn't sent any communications out to us. We have no idea what they're negotiating. We're reading about it through the press. So hopefully he's not expecting members of the House to actually vote for whatever it is he's haggling out with Hassan, because it's getting less and less likely that anything is going to pass. If you don't involve actual legislators, then legislators don't vote for the deal that you come up with.
And I hope that's true.
It's not a deal if nobody's on board.
Or reads the bill.
If you don't even notify us, this is just something that's going to come out of the blue without any notice. And then he's going to stand up there saying, I gave you all this notice. Well, he has his own caucus with his own, whatever it is, 50 or 60 chairs and vice chairs and people he controls. And some of the rhinos, they got the Rhino Caucus on Wednesday mornings.
Rhino Caucus.
Well, it is.
We're going to take a break.
Oh, sorry.
So we'll be right back, and we'll cover the other 3 bills and get some thoughts on what they're going to pass and what they're not going to pass, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.